Hearty shalom to all of you. Jeffrey Seif here. Glad to be with you. Glad you're with us. Glad you're tracking. Speaking of tracking, we were wanting to follow in the footsteps of America's history. And so my wife Barry and I, not long ago when we were flying to Pennsylvania to participate in the Messianic Jewish Alliance of America's major summer conference, we flew in through Philadelphia and stopped at some sites in Philadelphia. Of course, students of American history know that Philadelphia factored so prominently in the emergence of this new country back in the day. And back in that day, people were much more, religious leaders were much more connected to biblical impulses, much more impressed by them. So much the case that as Barry and I were making our way around Philadelphia, we stopped and made our way through a rather long line to get to the Liberty Bell. Popular as the Liberty Bell in American history. It's a symbol because it speaks of liberty. But the engraving on the Liberty Bell itself harks back to a verse in Leviticus in the 25th chapter, verse 10, where it says, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all of its inhabitants, thus the Liberty Bell." A lot of times we hear things like Liberty Bell, we remember history, but we forget what it's all connected to. This, by the way, is so much the case, not only in the case of, that I keep harping on, that students of the New Testament are just oblivious to the fact the New Testament is connected to the Jews' Testament. The New Testament is an extension of the Old. They're genetically interrelated. And I'm all about, or I have been as a Bible college seminary professor, wanting people to see the Jewish roots of the Christian faith. Well, similarly here, in considering American history, it's helpful to observe that in America, people have lost sight of the Jewish moorings of our own culture. We live in a world today where there are people that are revisionists that argue, well, it wasn't really a religious culture in the first place. But when you look at all of our court monuments, courthouses and the like, the Ten Commandments, a biblical verse written all over it, it harks to another way of thinking. It harks to a more religious way of thinking. Similarly, when you consider our founding universities, be it Harvard, Princeton, Yale, schools set up to train ministers for the new world, and there really was a premium on learning the Hebrew language. Hebrew even makes its way onto the insignia, the emblem of these respective schools. Jewish perspective used to mean a lot more. Well, I'm looking here at the 25th chapter where we're looking, and this is in this week's Torah reading, as Jews follow the annual reading, and we're looking here, and you'll note according to the headings that we give in the Tree of Life Bible. I'm using our thin line reference here, just like I used the thin line last week. I use different versions. In fact, right after I make this tape, I'm going and taking the Brick, our big family Bible, to someone that I've arranged to give to as a gift. We have different kinds at different price points, but they all have the same material. Some have different things, pictures and the like. This one doesn't, but it has the text. And we were deliberate. We thought that, well, the biblical text itself is inspired. The headers are a guide. And here simply it says Shabbat, year, and Jubilee in the 24th chapter. You might recall the Shabbat year. Hebrews were beckoned to work. They were all farmers, but then to take a Sabbath on the 7th year. And Sabbath, by the way, we're so used to it because we're enculturated into a church way of thinking. Well, Sabbath is when we go to church. Christians, do their Sabbath on Sunday, whereas Jews do their Sabbath on Saturday. And then we fight over who's got the real day to meet. As individuals kick that around, what they lose sight of the fact is that when the Bible spoke about a Sabbath, there was no congregations anywhere. Moses didn't go to synagogue. It hadn't been invented. His leaders weren't rabbis. They hadn't evolved yet. That comes later. To honor the Sabbath meant to take a rest, literally to rest, and for the family to get together and kind of get in tune with each other and get in tune with God. And that's partly the genesis behind our movements, the Family Bible Society, interest in gathering the people together around the Bible, as per the Brick, the big family Bible. That's why it's called the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Society. To get a rest, to get together, to get into the Word. And our premier family models that. not just for the cameras. I mean, that was their life before cameras were ever shined on it. Well, the land was supposed to take a rest. 6 years you work, 7th year is a timeout. Let stuff grow by itself, we're told in verses 1 through 7. Let it grow, eat what you can, but let the land chill. And then you go out, that's the Sabbath year, the 7th year, and then 7 years. And then you add a year, you have to 50th year, and that's like a super Sabbath. And there's blessings that unfold then, which I won't go into at this juncture, save to say that we're told in conjunction with the mega Sabbath, the 50th year, the Jubilee year. And you get the word Jubilee, jubilation, celebration. You get that celebration year. It's in conjunction with that where we're told with the release of debts, with people returning back to their original inheritances, which they were deprived of through bad living or some sort of misfortune. You know, there's a reset button, and they all get together. They all get to start over again. You can and should read the biblical text yourself. And it's in conjunction with that where we hear, well, proclaim liberty throughout the land. It's a kind of grace that's extended to Hebrews according to the Old Testament covenant. We know proclaim liberty throughout the land with a ringing bell in America, but the ringing bell in America story goes back to the biblical story. And the biblical story, by the way, goes back to the grace of God. People are minded to say, well, you know, the Jews are real legalistic and God in the Old Testament's real anal retentive, just throwing rules at people. There's no grace there. Thank for God manifest in Christ, because that's where we find good news. Well, Jews just don't see it that way. If you look at the Jubilee year, if you look at the Sabbath year, it's good news, it's rest, it's get together, it's recharging. You, your family, getting connected with God and one another. If you look at the Jubilee year, there's all kinds of release of debt. There's land going back to the original families. There's a kind of grace here. There's a kind of peace here. There's something that contributes to human betterment and a new start and, you know, getting a new lease on life even after bad living. There's a kind of beauty and grace here that is so pronounced. When people argue there's no grace in the Older Testament, it just does not abide my understanding. It certainly doesn't comport with the Jewish understanding in the literature. Now, it is true that the grace of God was manifest in a clear, new, special way in the person of Yeshua, where grace is extended to all people, all days, all ways, with reaching out to him. You don't have to be Jews. You don't need a tabernacle. He enfleshes all of that. In fact, the gospel story is that the grace of God, if you will, became flesh and dwelt among us, and then he was taken from us and he pours out his spirit upon us. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the gospel story, the importance of it. I just want you to see how it's rooted in the Hebrew Bible. There's a grace of God here. And in a more secular monument that employs the text, the grace, proclaimed Jubilee throughout the land, surely there's a way that the founding fathers of America saw in the Liberty Bell, and just the American experience is a story of a new world. There's graces to the world because a culture is going to be established here on better principles, that is, biblical principles. Speaking of which, inasmuch as our founding fathers once upon a time were minded to establish a culture on biblical principles, would you allow me to encourage you to establish your culture on biblical principles? You might not be a Ben Franklin, you might not be in charge of one of America's 13 colonies, but you know what? You are in charge of you. You're the chief executive officer of the corporation that is you, and you have a home somewhere. Let me encourage you to get biblical influence into your world and decide to build your life on this foundation right here, and in that, proclaim liberty throughout your land. Jeffrey Seif here signing off. See you again next week. Same time, same station. God bless you.